program called Junior Seahawks through the Island Rec Center, in which our players combined for over 200 hours of community service. We had a great overnight trip to Columbia for team building, played a game and saw the USC women's basketball team play. For the most part, they behaved on that trip, but I would like to note to the two freshmen that I do know who got us in trouble for knocking on the other guests' doors.
Oh.
And I know which coach persuaded them to do it. And we had a great time with Lisa Richardson and FCA on a team painting trip to Wine and Design towards the end of the season. It is no secret to those who followed our varsity team this season that our season was a difficult one in terms of wins and losses. There was a coaching change, and we replaced 4 starters from last year's team. We left last season returning only 15% of our total points scored and less than 22% of our total rebounds from the previous season. Along with having a rookie varsity head coach, most of the returning girls had very little experience even playing a significant minute of varsity basketball. But starting last spring, we began to see what would hold our team together through adverse times: leadership, team chemistry, and work ethic. Throughout the offseason, our eventual captains, Sarah, Aranza, and Nisha, led our new group of Seahawks through the offseason workouts and weights. We saw this group put in hours of work and great improvement during that time heading into the season. As we opened up our season in November, we introduced a group of new faces to the Seahawks basketball. The varsity team would eventually include 9 first-time varsity lettermen. These first-year varsity lettermen are sophomore Dylan Brown, sophomore Megan McDonald, sophomore Ashton Soule, freshman Trinity Feltner, freshman Valentina Palacio, freshman Nicte Barrientos, eighth grader Jasmine Campbell, eighth grader China Sneed, and eighth grader Miley Ray. While most of the girls their age are playing JV basketball and even middle school basketball, these girls were thrown into varsity games and asked to play significant minutes. Their impact on our team was extremely productive, and we're excited about the future that they'll have with our program. We also had 8 returning lettermen. Those were freshman Caroline Brammer, junior Denisha Miller, junior Austin Seelbach, and junior Juliette McMurray. And finally, our 4 seniors. First, Kelly Manowski. There are too many stories that I'd like to tell about Kelly tonight, but her ability to keep our team loose in practices, pregame, and on the bus are unmatched on our team. You couldn't script a better way for her to end her senior season hitting a bank shot 3-pointer in her final home game. Next, Mariah Mervin. First to Mariah, I'd like to say I'm glad we could save you from Bluffton last year, and that after trying to persuade you throughout football season, you finally decided to listen to me and play this senior season. If there's one thing that I hope you take away from the past 2 years of basketball is that you are so talented, and when you have confidence in what you're doing, it makes your talent really shine. Finally, our 2 senior captains. First, Sarah Slauson. Sarah has come a long, long ways from the 7th grader that I nicknamed Swiffer, like the mom, because she was always falling on the court. Back when she was in middle school. But actually, she still falls on the court quite a bit. Anyways, we couldn't have made it through this season without your leadership and guidance, and we're so proud of the improvements that you made on the court and off the court this season. And finally, our other senior captain, Aranza Macarena. Aranza was our only returning starter from last season, and and deserves an incredible amount of credit for the toughness she played through this season. Some of you may not know that she was diagnosed with a back injury in the fall that never really improved. Rather than miss some or all of her senior season, she played through the pain. And trust me, sometimes it was very painful to watch her just try to play basketball. But she never used her injury as an excuse and never missed a game because of the injury. I don't think any of us really know how hard this season was for you, but trust us, we all appreciate what you did. Our season had many ups and downs, but there was one thing for certain for anyone who watched us throughout the season. We improved from start to finish. Many times you hear coaches or fans talk about improvement because it is assumed that you should improve as the season goes on. But one statistic clearly shows our growth as a team. This season we had 10 opponents, which we played twice. In our rematch games against those opponents just a few weeks later, we improved by an average of over 7 points. The biggest differential came in our last game of the season against Stahl. Just 2 weeks prior, they had beaten us 50-17, and the game honestly wasn't even that close. Most people would expect an 0-22 team in their final game of the season to lack interest or effort, but that's not the character of our girls. As I said before, Kelly Manowski hit a three-pointer that started a 17-6 run in the second half, and we had Stahl on the ropes as they called a timeout with about 2 minutes left in the game. On that night, we improved our score by a differential of 21 points. While we can make the case for improvement of any of our players, there is one who stood out to her coaches and her teammates. Less than a week before our first game, we lost Austin to a knee injury in our final scrimmage. To that point, Austin was almost exclusively playing point guard for us. When I learned of the injury news, I reached out to this player who was in Orlando for a soccer tournament. In that conversation, we talked about the new role she was going to be forced into as a freshman. We knew that she was going to have to be a leader as a point guard. We knew that she'd be competing nightly against bigger, faster, stronger, and certainly older girls, and that we both had to deal with the bumps along the road. As the season progressed, she improved her ball handling, aggressiveness, and ability to call the game on her own as a point guard. There is no doubt that lessons that she learned this year will pay off in a big way over the next 3 years. This player started all 23 games for us, was third on the team in scoring, first in assists, second in steals, and fifth in rebounding. Our varsity most improved player is Trinity Feltner. As mentioned before, our season really began last spring, with weight, skill workouts, cleaning up after football games, and bagging groceries to raise money at Piggly Wiggly over the summer. There is one girl who seemed to be at almost everything. When she was at basketball, she always had a smile on her face, always gave her best effort, and did what was asked of her. In a difficult season, sometimes the distraction from the grind of the season can go a long ways. And her mostly appropriately timed singing, dancing, and other antics always seemed to keep her teammates and coaches entertained. On the court, you could always count on her playing as hard as she possibly could, finishing second on the team in rebounding and led the team in charges taken. Although she is still learning the game of basketball, there was never, ever a lack of effort. A 4.0 student in the classroom and a multi-talented young lady off the court, this year's Seahawk Award embodies the qualities that we believe best represent our basketball program, and that is Dylan Brown. Our next award is the Offensive Player of the Year. This end of the court was certainly one of our weaknesses this season, and as we improved over the course of the season, our ability as a team to run a quality offense and take care of the basketball developed tremendously. Many times our main source of scoring each game was inconsistent, and many different players led us in scoring throughout the year. This player led us in both 2-point and 3-point field goals made, and was second on the team in free throws made. She increased her total points scored from last season by 70 points, and despite her size, was fourth on the team in rebounding. She holds a 3.93 GPA in the classroom, and she finished her Seahawk career with an exciting 11 points in the second half of our final game against Stahl. Our Offensive Player of the Year is Mariah Merkin. Our next award was chosen by the 6 coaches in our region and could easily be labeled as our co-MVP. Going into this season, we knew replacing the state's back-to-back leading rebounder for both the boys and girls was going to be difficult. But this player stepped up to the challenge of often being undersized compared to her opponents. This player grabbed over 150 rebounds this season, leading both our team and the entire region in rebounding. She also led our team in steals, which was fourth in the region with 2.5 per game. After being exclusively used as a post player in her first 2 seasons, we asked this player to switch between playing multiple guard positions this season, all while being one of our captains and leaders. A 4.1 GPA student in the classroom, Denisha Miller was selected to represent Hilton Head on the all-region team. And our final awards of the evening are our team's MVP and our academic award, which belong to the same player. The improvement of this player is equally impressive off the court as it is on the court. Quite honestly, I don't really think many people, including herself, would have guessed a year ago that she could have filled the role that she did this season. Unquestionably the leader of our team from the beginning of spring workouts, this player became a role model for the rest of the program, leading by her example. Her work ethic and positive attitude were a constant for our team. And as a captain, she looked out for the rest of the team, especially important with all the new and young players on our roster. On the court, her work ethic developed skills that she had never been capable of before. She developed a mid-range jump shot and a great fake and rip move to attack the basket. In 2 previous seasons on varsity, she had a combined total of 9 points, 34 rebounds, 9 steals, and 1 block. This season, she led us in scoring with exactly 100 points scored. She led us in both free throws made and attempted, was 3rd on the team in rebounding, 4th in steals, 3rd in assists, and 2nd in charges taken. Most of those statistics were improvements of over 5 to 10 times of her career totals. As dominant as she was on the court, she also led the team with a 4.9 GPA, which until recently I did not even know was possible. As impressive as her statistical improvements in academics were, it's her impact that she had in creating a new culture around our program that will last long after she's graduated. This year's academic award and MVP goes to Sarah Slauson. And finally, I'd like to thank Ms. Onan, Mr. Mominier, Ms. Kerr, Angie Williams, Lisa Richardson, and FCA, our managers, Sammy, Tajma, and Sage, our staff, students, families, and friends, and the boys' staff for their support this season. To all of our parents, thank you for your patience and support of the girls all season. In particular, Holly Brown for organizing our concession stand coverage, Chris Feltner for filling in at the scores table and filming games when we were in need, and Pam Slauson for organizing team meals, being our Booster Club representative, and even being our bus driver at the USC women's game. To Rich and Mika, I appreciate you all more than I can explain. Thanks for speaking your mind and being a great influence to the girls. To Sandy and Jamise, I appreciate your patience dealing with me while I push and pull the JV players throughout the season. And to the players, you deserve all the credit in the world for the strong bond that you kept through the adverse times this season. Through the good times and the bad, we did it together. And as I told you many times, the easiest option would have been to quit, point fingers, argue, or blame the coaches, but that wasn't who you were. And that says more about you than any win, loss, or statistic. No matter how long I coach, you'll always be my first varsity team, and I appreciate the lasting memories you made for me this season.